question from Lisa Gibson, please. Lisa Gibson.
In the wake of 2 Coronation Street actors being cleared of sex abuse charges, should the accused be given anonymity in future rape cases?
This is William Roach, of course, who was cleared by a jury today, and Michael Lavelle cleared earlier on a charge. George Galloway, the coalition agreement between Labour and between Conservatives and Liberal Democrat did have a plan.
Same thing.
Did have a proposal that the anonymity should be given to the person charged. What's your view?
Well, it's a tricky one because when accusations are made and the accused is named, sometimes people come forward with evidence and sometimes with further allegations of other crimes. And it would obviously mitigate against that if the accused was granted anonymity. But in the light of what happened today, this vastly expensive, potentially devastating, disastrous set of false accusations against an innocent man cleared by the court. Indeed, some of the charges were dropped well into the case before even reaching the jury. I think that this matter will return to the agenda in a very big way. The accusers are, of course, granted anonymity, absolutely correctly, and I think the time may be coming for the accused similarly to be granted anonymity.
And when you say the time may be coming, you mean because there is an increase in the number of cases that are being put before the courts?
Well, there appear to be, in these high-profile cases, people in this post-Savile era who are the victims of opportunistic accusation. And that seems to me to be invidious, unjust to them. I have no reason to second-guess the jury today, which was apparently absolutely unequivocal. But Bill Roach has spent many, many months under the cloud of suspicion, entirely unjustifiably, as it has turned out. And that can't be right.
Tessa Jowell.
What concerns me about rape generally is that it is a very heavily underreported crime. And I wouldn't want to see any step taken that reduced the likelihood of women coming forward, being helped to come forward, in some cases many years later, notwithstanding the case today. I don't think that this case, for all its celebrity and everything and the suffering of William Roche and his family, is a reason to take what is a very major step by allowing anonymity for those charged with rape. I think the major priority is to ensure that women who do suffer rape come forward, are supported to come forward, and that the police there is an insistence that the police take accusations of rape more seriously.
But why is that affected
than very
by
often
anonymity?
they do.
Why is it affected by anonymity being granted to the accused?
Well, because I think that, I think that, in many cases women are, they're afraid, they're not confident about the protection of their own anonymity. And I think that if you look at this in the round, the priority for us as a society is the protection of women who are subject to rape, and putting absolutely no obstacle in the way of their coming forward and being supported to come forward and bring cases of rape where they have suffered this terrible sexual violence.
OK, Alison Wolfe.
I completely agree with George Galloway. I think that the time has come, actually I think the time was a long time ago, for people who are accused of rape to be granted anonymity until the end of the trial. Clearly, if they're then found guilty, their name comes forward. But I cannot see why putting people through this helps in any way to encourage women to come forward with accusations. It seems to me that there is actually a huge number of unjust accusations being made against people in our society. Most of them don't hit the headlines in this way. It's a living nightmare for many teachers, and I think that it is perfectly possible to have a fair trial with the accused remaining anonymous, and I cannot see how we can possibly justify the number of innocent people who are being put through this. And of course, as many of them will say, once you've been accused, there is this muttering, you know, no smoke without fire, mud sticks, all of these things are perfectly true. And
what about the Stuart Hall case? You remember he pleaded, he said these were all lies and tissue of lies. His name came out, and then a whole lot of other people came up and accused him. And then he pleaded guilty.
But that's also like saying you should hang people because there will be people who won't commit murder because they're terrified of being hanged. I think our primary duty is to protect the innocent in our society and make sure that they get a fair trial.
You say, Luke.
I think, given the way the case ended, there was a clear lack of concrete evidence. I think Mr. Galloway touched on that point there. But I think these allegations have potentially damaged women coming forward who are genuinely got these gripes, because, you know, the immediate thing of, oh, she's making it up, or these sort of things, and the media intrusion into not only the accused but also the potential victim is damaging to the real victims. It's been horrible for Mr. Roach, but what about the women out there who are scared to come forward because of this?
David Starkey.
I think there are 2 points that I'd like to make. The first relates directly and specifically to the question, why was that idea of anonymity in the coalition agreement? It was directly because of the intervention of a very old and dear friend of mine, Conrad Russell, the late Earl Russell, who, when he was at your college, dealt as a tutor with exactly the kind of case that we're talking about. That is why it was there. The second issue is, I think we've got ourselves into a hopeless confusion on the whole question of rape. The word rape means violence. That is the Latin root. That is how it has always existed in English. That is how it has always been understood. What we have tried to do is to take that word with all its terrible associations and apply it to a whole series of much more awkward, much more difficult to establish, much more contested and contentious sexual encounters by focusing on this issue of consent, which so often boils down, as it did exactly in this case, to his word against her word. Now, I cannot see that the law is at all good at dealing with this. It really isn't. It works very badly. And I think that it encourages false accusation. It also encourages other things as well on the other side. It's a very, very awkward, difficult law. We're in a state of complete confusion about sexual etiquette, aren't we? Complete confusion about what is right and what is wrong. We're trying to change it. We're trying to use the law to change it. And you, Tessa, said something which I think, frankly, is deeply shocking. You said that our interest as a society is on, bringing forward more victims of rape. I'm sorry, we have one interest in society when the law is applied, and it's called justice. And justice is blind, and justice is even-handed. And this sense of a very large female paw resting on one pan of the scale is bad and it's wrong. And I'm going to use the word, it's immoral.
That's utterly reactionary tosh. Rape does not have to involve violence. No means no. If you proceed, it's rape, whether there's violence involved or not.
Shouting, by the way, doesn't deal with the problem at all effectively.
Well, I'm outraged at what you said.
No, I'm sorry,
so will half the country.
Didn't you say
well,
that you didn't...
good, because it might make them think. Just sort of mouthing these things, no means no. Think of the... I'm not heterosexual. I have been in very complex sexual situations. Being gay, I'm actually used, in one sense, to being what it's like on the other side. I know what's involved. I know the complexities. And this, no means no words.
In a relationship in which sex is the norm, then clearly, nobody watching this asks their wife verbally, would you like to have sex, dear. Nobody does that in relationships.
Let's go back to the question, which is whether anonymity should be given in future rape cases. And Matthew Hancock, we haven't heard from you, so let's hear from you.
Well, I think that this case has been a high-profile disaster, and it's been a disaster both on its own terms and for the impact on Bill Roache, but also because of how it's made this very debate more difficult. Because the concept of open justice, of everything being done in open and in court, is based on everybody taking the opinion of innocent until proven guilty. And the problem in these cases is precisely because of the concern of people not thinking of the perpetrators or the alleged perpetrators as innocent until proven guilty. And I would rather try to establish the principle of innocent until proven guilty because of the downsides of bringing in anonymity, which undoubtedly and provenly making an accusation, if true, does bring forward other victims.
How do you achieve that? How do you try and change?
Well, I think that we should have... It's about the national culture. It involves how the media respond. Innocent until proven guilty is an extremely important principle on which our whole justice system is built.
All right. Tessa, I'm going to come back to you, but I'll go up to the person over there first. You, sir.
I was talking about what George was saying about asking your partner for intercourse on just a basis. What happens, most girls will complain after a couple of months into it. There was no spontaneous love. There was no care in a relationship. If you're going to have to ask them every 20 seconds if you want them, where are you showing us the spontaneous, actual real love kind?
All right. Well, we're on to the issue about what rape is rather than whether anonymity should be granted. The woman there at the back, yes.
I think there's two issues. Bill Roache was never going to be anonymous. He's too famous. That was never going to have anonymity. So I don't think we should use these high-profile cases to talk about a major change in the rape laws. And as for people being confused, I think that's rubbish, quite frankly. I think a man knows if he's had sex with a woman against her will, and so does she. There's no confusion.
Lisa Gibson, did you want to come back in on this? You asked the question.
I think that due to the media circus and frenzy that surrounded both the cases, I believe in the premise of innocent until proven guilty. And the fact that they are two famous household actors' names, they should be allowed to be in court, and in both cases a trial jury to decide, rather than the press and the media.
OK. And Tessa, Jowell, do you want to come back? Because David Starkey rather laid into you.
Well, not that I noticed. I mean, my test for this is, does any change in the law make it less likely that some of the young women that I represent and, you know, I know turn up at the local hospital, they go to the police, or they languish in school because something horrific has happened to them? Does it make it less likely that they are going to come forward, that the perpetrator is going to be charged, and they're going to be given the help that they need? And I think that celebrity is a very bad moment at which to undertake a fundamental change in the law. And I think that the lady who made that point, perhaps rather better than I have, is the view that certainly represents...
Why does anonymity, if anonymity was given, just let's complete this, if anonymity was granted to people accused of rape, why would it make people less likely to come forward and accuse them of rape?
I think that the absence of anonymity sets a higher threshold. I think that's the first thing. And I think that in this case...
for what?
Well, a higher threshold for somebody to be charged. And I think also, you see, the role of the CP...
Doesn't evidence do that?
The lack of anonymity also makes it very tempting to bring false charges when what you want to do is to harm somebody and hurt somebody.
No, but
you don't care if they're later acquitted, because they will, in the meantime, have had terrible damage done to them.
All right. I think we'll have to...
There are thousands and thousands of young women and older women in this country who have suffered forms of sexual violence and never had the confidence or the ability to come forward.
What's this to the point? It has no relationship to the issue of anonymity.
Right, I'm going to hand the argument over to you at home, because you can join in the